Okay, I'm David Waugh.
I'm Bob Kleba.
And it is July 2019, and we're nearing the finish line on this project. We're hoping to open the hotel and cafe in August, which is probably only 2 to 3 weeks away now.
And boy, we are busy, but we have done a lot of work on this property, and we are really happy to show you what we've gotten done. So we'll take a quick tour of the outside of the building. Not much has changed on the front entrance. A couple safety features, safety lighting, and key vault for the fire department. We did put new lock on the door, and that enables the guests to use just the last 4 digits of the guest's phone number in order to get access to the building. So this railing satisfies requirements for occupancy, and what we were going to replace it with will be a steel railing that will come down here, attached to the stone, wrap around here on both sides. Be much more elegant and not distract from the historic nature of the porch. I wish we had our new sign up, but we don't. We have to get approval for the sign. If we go to the side entrance, that is very different. And what we did here is we provided an accessible entrance. So we have a ramp that goes up the side of the building at a less than 5% grade. I think with the landscaping in front of it, we won't see that sidewalk so much. And we'll also have landscaping in here, which will hide the accessible walk. But overall, it fits very well with the architecture of the building. It doesn't really, it's not terribly jarring. It is obviously different, but it is required for accessibility. I think this worked out very well. We used this dimple board, which is used for drying basements, to separate out compacted gravel underneath the sidewalk from the foundation of the building. So there's basically a vapor barrier. And then anything under the sidewalk, like I said before, is gravel. And we have a drain tile under that, again, to keep moisture away from the building. And then we did this earth berm in here for plantings, which will serve to hide the sidewalk. One of the things that the historic preservation planner wanted to avoid was having a walk with a railing, because the railing is noisy and it would detract from the architecture of the building. If it were less than 3 feet, then we'd have to have a railing. We're putting in woody plant material, so bushes. Yeah, probably a row of boxwood, and then some other ornamental shrubbery. We redid the sidewalk. We put the downspouts underground, come out here, and then drain out to the backyard. Here we see the basement entrance from the exterior, and it is an original entrance that was part of the 1870s construction with the original stairs. And as I mentioned before, it does have some water infiltration issues, and hopefully when we get around to building the stairs, well, not hopefully, we will rebuild the stairs and then we will correct that water infiltration. This part of the parking lot will have the van accessible parking space, and the parking lot is quite a bit larger than what it was previously. We do have an expanded apron. It's also lowered, and that was quite a bit of a challenge. However, we were very lucky with the timing of the development of the property, because they redid the road the summer of 2018, and when they redid the street, they were able to raise the street at the curb and lower the sidewalk so that we could have less than a 12% grade on the apron because we weren't up to code previously. And to tell you the truth, we had a few contractors whose vans were bottoming out on that apron because it was so steep. But we got all that redone. The porch is all new from the roof down. So it turns out that the floor was totally rotten out. We lifted the floor so that it's at the same elevation as the first floor. So when you walk up the accessible walkway, there's no grade change going into the house. We were able to reuse the railings from the porch that was built in the 1960s that was here, and we imitated the trim details. So we used the South American tropical hardwood ipe, which is a rot-resistant wood for the flooring. So this is the accessible entrance. To get into the building, all you need to enter is the last 4 digits of your phone number, and then that'll unlock the door. Unfortunately, we were not able to reuse the door that was here previously, probably installed at the turn of the last century, 1900 or so. We think it was a kit that came with the trim and these bars, but the previous door could not accommodate a closer, the device that closes the door, and it was not solid enough for this new lock system. So we ended up having to build a new door that is virtually identical to the previous door, except that it's made of oak as opposed to walnut, and it's not painted. Hello, so here we are coming into the dining room, and the dining room is going to be part of our accessible entrance and also where our cafe will be. If you remember, initially we had a wall across this space that separated the dining room into an apartment, which provided lodging for the Knapp scholars. There was a door right here, and we don't really see any evidence of that wall, except for maybe a hole for the conduit here in the floor. The floors are original to the 1870s construction, and you see the same pattern in the dining room that we have in the parlor and the reception room. What we ended up having to do in the dining room was we had to put the air conditioning ducts in the floor, which was unfortunate. I would have preferred that they be in the ceiling, but because of the way the house is built, it would have been too far to run the ducts to get them into the ceiling. So we just did a shortcut, put them in the floor, and we're okay with that, I think. We have a light fixture that was chosen by our interior designer that we're not terribly happy with, and we actually bought a replacement already. Crystal chandelier that is going to hang right here. The 2 passageways from the dining room were greatly modified. We ended up having to remove the paneling and then carve out the masonry wall. Remember, that's plaster on stone, and on the other side it's also plaster on stone. So we had to carve out the masonry wall so that we have 32 inches clear for an accessible passageway. And unfortunately, we were not able to reuse the paneling that was here, so we made new paneling that's exactly the same as the old paneling, and new trim as well. Turns out that we were able to get the 32 inches clear just by removing the shims that were inside the paneling. And as with the other passageway, we were not able to reuse the paneling. We ended up with brand new paneling, brand new trim, and new threshold. The parlor is the same configuration as it was previously. Basically the same light fixtures, the same walls, the same layout, new paint. Some new features in the ceiling. We added sprinklers, 2 speakers, air conditioning, fire alarm, but the electrical features for the light fixtures were there. We did a gas insert for the fireplace, and otherwise the fireplace is unmodified. We have found in historic photos that this was an addition done in the late 20s before the fireplace was changed from its Victorian days or pre-Victorian from the original 1850s fireplace. Updated maybe in the 1910s. It kind of has an arts and crafts with a, I don't know, Neo-Georgian or Georgian revival type look. We might have pointed out earlier that this passageway led originally down to the basement of the oldest part of the building, the 1850s part of the building. And we have preserved that passageway, but it is basically sealed off. And we've opened it up on the other side for a check-in station, or what we call a porter station. This room will be for cafe seating. So we'll have tables and seats in here for our cafe patrons to enjoy their breakfast sandwich or their pastries and their coffee. It's a bright, sunny space. It'll be a great place to hang out as a cafe patron. This building purportedly has the first finished wood flooring of any house in Madison. And we believe that that was done in the 1870s. And this flooring is unique because it's made of yellow birch. And I didn't realize that yellow birch was a flooring material that was used, but that's what the floor sander said. He knows the different wood types by how they smell when he sands them. So he said that this was yellow birch. We still have some of the original flooring material in the attic from when it was installed in the 1870s, which is interesting. The front entrance is somewhat modified. We were able to remove the fire alarm system and the house alarm system. We did have to add a few other things in here for the mechanicals. Basically, the emergency lighting system. We had to dig a channel through the stone in order to run electricity there. Same holds for the fire alarm panel, where we had to channel through the stone to get the wiring for that panel. We reused a switch for the chandelier. We dropped this ceiling by about 6 inches to accommodate some electrical service that goes out to the porch, and air conditioning, fire sprinkler, and Wi-Fi, and emergency lighting. There was a different chandelier here. Of course, none of the lighting fixtures is original to the 1850s construction, but we wanted to go with something that was a little more flashy at the entrance, and we replaced a more modern brass chandelier with a crystal chandelier, and it, I think, really lights up the space. You can see it from both the parlor and the reception room, and of course you see it when you walk in the front entrance. So if we pass through here into the reception room, again, the historic space remains the same. We added 2 fixtures for 2 chandeliers. If we go back to the 1920s, 1930s, there were chandeliers, 2 chandeliers in this space. There was also a much more elegant plaster work in the ceiling that was removed sometime after the 30s, which we did not recreate. Most of the holes or the penetrations in the ceiling are for the air conditioning. And we need good air conditioning in these spaces because we plan to use them as event spaces. So in order to be able to accommodate all the heat generated by people using this space, we have to have that extra air conditioning. Interestingly, we changed shades of white. So the ceiling is more of a matte white, and then there's a little more gloss to the molding, and then the walls are an off-white. But just the difference with the shades of white really makes that plaster molding pop, which I'm really enjoying. This flooring was probably installed at the same time that the parlor flooring was installed and the dining room flooring, and it's a mix of walnut, oak, mahogany, and maple. The subcontractor who refinished the floors really made the woodwork pop. It's really phenomenal. The house has 6 fireplaces, 3 on this floor and then 3 upstairs. What was remaining were 3 coal burners. So these 2, and the room directly above me now, were 3 coal burners, and then 3 wood burning fireplaces. And when we installed the inserts, the natural gas burners in the fireplace insert actually have different flame patterns for the wood versus the coal, which I thought was interesting. When guests check in to the hotel, we'll bring them back to our what we're calling our porter station, and we made this space by taking out the wall that was originally here. What's interesting about the way this worked is that you don't really notice that there's a space behind when you walk in the building. So I'm really pleased with how well creating this space works as a hidden space, because I did not want to affect the perception of the historic space, which is what we did here. We definitely changed the way the historic space works. So we have just basically internet, cable, and the speaker. The sound system control will be in here, and then we'll have a computer for check-in. This used to be the passageway that led into the kitchen. Now it goes into a hallway that serves the accessible guest room and 2 restrooms and a very small commercial kitchen. Both restrooms are accessible, and we added these walls. The kitchen area had been modified substantially. What we did not modify was the stairwell going up and the stairwell going down to the basement. So these are still here. There was a door on that stairwell, and we did remove that door because fire code would have required there be a landing if we had a door. One nice thing about our inspection or negotiation with building inspection is that we were able to get away without a fire door here because of pre-existing use. And there are a lot of features in this building that we got grandfathered in because of pre-existing use. Now, we also have a sprinkler here, which mitigates any sort of fire, potential fire issues that we have with the stairwell. Through that window was an exhaust hood, which is kind of interesting. The exhaust hood was installed probably in the 20s or 30s, and it's the only window in the whole building that we actually redid. And normally, replacing windows with a modern window is a historical no-no. What you want to do in historic buildings is to rehabilitate or refinish the existing windows. But since the existing window from the 1870s, or the window from the 1870s had already been modified and replaced with something much less elegant with an exhaust hood at the top, we were able to put in a modern window as a replacement. What I was unfortunate, we're just moving away from the kitchen here a little bit, but into the restroom. The new ADA code requires a a handlebar to get up from the toilet right here and exactly here. It can't be over here, can't be over here, so that's where the bar is. That's a bit awkward, but we can't move the window, and that's what we ended up doing. Soffit got a little bit bigger in the kitchen, again, because I wanted to add a fan to the kitchen space. But the kitchen, as far as preservation goes, what we did retain from the previous kitchen is the butler's pantry. So we have a cupboard up here and a cupboard down below. Underneath this countertop is a kitchen sink, or a rinsing sink, which is no longer used, but we'll use this space for our coffee preparation. So we'll have our espresso maker and coffee grinder on this space. And we have all the plumbing underneath to accommodate that. The commercial kitchen is designed for reheating food. So all the food that we will be serving in the cafe will be prepared and frozen, most likely. So we will reheat it and serve it. What's missing on this countertop is a high-impact oven, high-speed impact oven, which uses microwave and convection to heat food up like in 2 minutes or 160 seconds, or however long it takes. It's very fast. Microwave, refrigerator under the counter, complete with beer for after filming, okay? And prep sink, hand washing sink, scrap sink. The only thing that's missing is a water dispenser because you can't dispense water from the prep sink, the hand washing sink, or the scrap sink. It has to be a separate water dispenser. That'll be over here. And dishwasher under here. So well, it worked out pretty well. Used a different format subway tile in here to give it a more updated look with the 1850s door. That's probably 1870s, actually. This part of the building is 1870s. So the Knapp Scholar Room reflects the size of room that the Knapp Scholars used when they lived here. And this was a bedroom when the Knapp Scholars occupied the building from 1950 until 2010, I believe, was the last year that they were here. So over 50 years, 60 years that they were here. So this was a bedroom for one of the Knapp Scholars. And it had access to the outdoors through this rear door. And then what makes it an accessible room is the spacing of the toilet, access under the sink, and of course the shower, which has a no grade, no curb entrance. And also having the spray as opposed to just a shower head makes it accessible. What we don't need apparently is a seat, I'm happy to say, but we'll figure that out as we move along with our guests. So let's go to the front of the building and head up the grand stairwell to the rooms upstairs. The funny story about the grand staircase is in my first discussion with the state historic preservation planner was to figure out what we could modify in the building and what we couldn't. And she said, of course, we can modify whatever we want in the kitchen area because that's not an historic space. It had been modified previously, so we modified it yet again. She did say, though, in the same breath, that what we could not touch in any way whatsoever was this staircase. And we ended up not touching it. Again, we negotiated with building inspection not to have to touch it due to pre-existing use. We were a little bit worried about the safety of the staircase because the railing on current code should be at least this high, 32 inches. And at one point in the stairwell, the railing is only up to my knee, which is about 24 inches. So that was a concern. The other concern is the width of the stairway, and it should be 36 inches, and I think we're on the order of about 30. But I think that the railing that we added doesn't detract from the original design and adds quite a bit of safety. What we still have yet to do on this stairwell is to add a carpet runner. And the stairs, interestingly, were made of the original wood, just pine planks. And I don't think that they were ever meant to be exposed. I think that they were always meant to have some sort of carpet treatment on them. Heading up the stairs. And I love how naturally you grab this railing and stay away from the lower railing. So these are the 4 original bedrooms in the 1850s part of the building. So these rooms have particularly high ceilings, which is fun. And we'll start with the room 200. So this is one of the 2 rooms that faces the street and has a lot of light, a lot of windows, has a original coal burning fireplace. And what I find fascinating about this room is that it has 4 doorways. So only 2 of which we're using today. This doorway went out into the hallway or over to the other room, but in the 1920s, it was closed off for a bathroom. So a bathroom was put into that space. But you can see the original paneling for the passageway and a little bit of leftovers from shelves that were in here. But the door had not been put there when we bought the building, but we found the original door and we put it back in place. So this doorway was led into a closet, and with historic preservation, you want to preserve where the passageways were. So we sealed the door shut, and behind this door is the bathroom for the room next door. Okay. This was the original doorway to the bathroom that was added in 1928. And 1928, Walter Kohler Sr. was governor, and he had installed the Kohler bathtub, which had the patented enamel technique, applying glass coating to a cast iron tub. And this is the original 1928 pedestal sink, and not the original toilet, of course. Toilets do wear out over time, but you can see some of the mounting hardware for the tank of the original toilet. And I believe I mentioned earlier that this bathroom had sunk down, probably because of the way the plumbing was installed. And this was the toilet and the bathroom plumbing that didn't quite drain properly, and we had to correct that. Yet another passageway that is sealed off. This was set up as a Jack and Jill bathroom, but we blocked off the doorway from the other bedroom, so that this bathroom is private to this bedroom. I might have said earlier that the house was plumbed for hot and cold cistern water, and then city water for drinking, because cistern water wasn't necessarily safe for drinking.
So is that third one non-functional then?
We have hard water and soft water.
Really?
Yeah, so we plumbed it the way it was originally plumbed, basically. We're still in the process of moving our furniture into the rooms, and we'll have that finished by the end of the month. Our first guests show up August 1st. So across the hall, we have another room facing the street. And again, we have preservation of the passageways. Those were closets that led into a passageway and a closet. Passageway led to the other room. We did update all of the guest rooms with the Mitsubishi split duct system. And in the summer, of course, we use that for air conditioning. We can also use that for heating. In a house where we have steam heat, which is on or off, controlled by one thermostat, it'll be wonderful to have this extra little heater in end of September, October, November, those months to add a little extra heat if we don't have the steam system running. One feature that we had to add, and that is a chase to take the air conditioning ducts down to the ceiling of the parlor. And we did that in a couple rooms. Most of the rooms we were able to get the air conditioning ducts through the wall, but on the exterior walls, and particularly where we have the mortar walls, where it's just plaster on mortar, we had to add a little chase. And if you look, the doorway is framed by the remnant of this fireplace and this chase. So this is the other original bathroom to the house, again installed in 1928 by Walter Kohler Sr. And it's been a little bit modified. It still has the curtain rod from 1928, but we did add a more modern shower and spray. Same bathtub. The sink has been updated. Same vanity, new toilet, but the tile work is all original. This bathroom had access to the hallway, so we preserved that. All the guest rooms were modified to have cable TV, so we'll be mounting TVs where you see the outlet and the cable. Let's head to this room. These two rooms in this part of the house have new bathrooms, and interestingly, you can see we did correct the molding on this door, but you can see how much the molding slopes down because of that problem with the plumbing. And the low point of the floor, you can feel it when you walk across here. The floor really sank. Now, we didn't correct that, but we fixed it. So it's now fixed in place. This is one of the wood-burning fireplaces. A little bit tricky to configure because the mantle is wood. So we chose a lower BTU insert to accommodate that. But the beautiful original tile work from the 1850s on both the fireplace and the hearth. Interestingly, the fireplaces downstairs had tile that's similar to this, but it had been replaced sometime in the 1910s, 1920s, unfortunately. Bathroom is all new. We chose to go with a pedestal sink, again a Kohler pedestal sink. Large, like what the bathroom next door has, and then glass door for the shower. Just simple but elegant. And the last bedroom on this side of the house. The only bedroom where we had to modify the historic space. And in here, we did have to bring the wall out about 20 inches because the closet was too shallow for us to accommodate a bathroom. So we pushed the wall out as far as we could in order to be able to squeeze a bathroom in here. It originally came right into here, the wall. So did a very small bathroom, had to work with a small sink. We still have a more than adequate shower and toilet on the right hand, or on my right hand side at least. And then since it has an exterior wall, we wanted to add a little bit of heat, so we chose to go with this electric towel bar, electric radiator towel bar, which is kind of fun. Again, another coal burning insert, because this fireplace was originally set up, or when we bought the property, the fireplace was set up for burning coal. So, and unfortunately this is painted stone, and at some point we're going to have to strip it. What we did for this, for opening, is just to paint over it, but it's beautiful. It has the original 1850s tile work we're lucky to have. And you can see that the wood flooring is not at the same grade. It was added after the hearth was built. We're going to take an adventure up to the attic, and we'll continue up this beautiful mahogany staircase, or mahogany railing in the staircase, to look at the attic. And of course, there's no smoking in the attic. We need to pay attention to that. And it is tight, tight, tight up here. Let's see if I can get this pushed through. I'm not going to be able to do that. But let me turn, the light is on. So we're going to have to walk in here. And then close this door. And what we see in this room is, first of all, we insulated the roof, which allows us to have items in here that would be sensitive to freezing, like the sprinklers. So we saved a lot of money by having this a heated space, or maintaining this as a heated space. Over here, you can see the superstructure that we had to add in order to support the bathroom floor, the ceiling in the reception room. So we have 3 steel beams that go from masonry wall, interior masonry wall, all the way out to the exterior masonry wall, out that way. And then this cross beam that holds up the floor, where the plumbing had caused the floor to sag. Mechanicals that we added up here are, of course, the sprinkler system and air conditioning. And behind this large duct is an air handling unit. And then the other thing that we have is this switching unit. So 2 separate air conditioning systems in here. That switching unit actually switches between the 4 bedrooms for the split duct systems. So there's 1 compressor outside that feeds that switch, and then the 4 individual units feed off that. Another advantage of heating this space is that we have the drain for the air conditioning units up here. So there's a little pump in the system, which is standard, pumps up to a drain, and that drain goes all the way down to the basement. And it actually keeps the rest of the house warmer too, which is a great advantage. This leads up to the Widow's Walk. We're not going to go up there today, but I'm not sure how this doorway worked back in the 1850s, but it's annoying to get off, and I don't like going up there anyway. All new electrical in the building, and what's funny about the electrical is that it's really nothing fancy, but the way it's built with all the masonry walls, the electrical goes to panels that you would not expect. For example, there are quite a few basement outlets. that are wired all the way up to here, just because it's difficult to get from the north end of the basement to the south end of the basement. It was much easier to come all the way up through the building vertically as opposed to horizontally. So that is going to be my bane when I have to do electrical maintenance on this building. Figuring out what's wired to what distribution panel. Remnants of Knapp Scholars. Yeah, beautiful stairway. This passageway is interesting because it was very tight, very congested, and I think very dangerous too. The 3 steps coming down were at different levels and different riser heights and different tread widths. So it was awkward walking up and down them, and we were very worried about losing guests coming down here, tripping on the stairs, then flying over the railing, which is of course not at code height. But the correction that we did to the stairwell, I think, makes a huge difference. Unfortunately, what we lost was the paneling that was here, but we could not have been able to get the railings in here, which are required by code, without removing that paneling. And we could not remove much more to widen this because we wanted to preserve this molding, the plaster molding, the original plaster molding on top here. But we were able to gain quite a bit of headspace. I think the original doorway was somewhere in here, and then it was very tight in here. And what we ended up with is much nicer, much safer. We'll take a quick look at some of these rooms. There we go. So, we were able to preserve the historic space. The walls were not changed. We did have to fur this wall out. Actually, now that I think of it, we did have to fur this wall out in order to be able to accommodate this air conditioning unit. But we had to move the doors, and as soon as you move a door, you have to go to a 36-inch wide door. So we have 2 brand new 36-inch wide doors here, brand new bathroom, very similar to what we had in the previous bathrooms. But I think a very nice guest room, very well appointed. We're working on getting some of the furniture, the Victorian furniture installed. And one thing that we will be doing is we will be mixing Victorian with some more modern. As soon as we come out here, we have new flooring. This flooring we were not able to preserve. In the hall, we have all new flooring, new walls, pretty much. New stairwell, new railings. As we move farther back in the house, the rooms become more modest, and this room has a beautiful bathroom, the same split duct heating and cooling system. And we were able to preserve these interesting little features like this curved wall. Had to replace the curved molding, which was not obvious, but we got it done. We added air conditioning and plumbing. Chase, we did have to move the doors a little bit, so they're all new doors. The last guest room we're calling the servants' quarters. And the new door has the sounds like an old door. Don't know how that happened, but there we are. And you can see how the layout works with the two twin beds. And we find that a lot of travelers really would like to be able to have separate beds, like mother-daughter, father-son, or two people who are not intimate or traveling together. And this provides them that space for the budget traveler. We did not do anything with these exterior walls in this room. So, and of course they face the lake, so the wind off the lake will keep this room nice and refreshing throughout the winter. But in the bathroom, we did insulate all the exterior walls, so the bathroom should be much cozier. So we were able to preserve features in this area like this curved wall, both inside the guest room and outside. We didn't have to push the door far enough over that we lost that feature. We also preserved throughout the house some of these features like this gas stub out. And back in the day, in the 19th century, they would have had a gas light sconce here. And of course the sconces were functional because that's right about the height where you would light the light, and it illuminated the room with the gas light flicker, which is kind of fun to think about. It's too bad that we can't do the gas lighting anymore these days. But you also see the transition here from the new flooring to the original flooring right in here. So the servants' staircase is narrow and it's a winder. We don't have to restrict it from guest use, but we may end up doing so just because it's not a comfortable staircase to walk up and down. Okay, so we're going to head down to the basement and look at some of the mechanicals that we installed in the basement, and also look at the caretaker's quarters, which is basically a house within a house. So the basement, access to the basement has not changed in any way. In fact, we haven't really finished or did any work down here. So it's got some of the same cobwebs that it had when we bought the building. So this is where the electrical service came into the building when we bought the property. The wire came in underground through this box, and there was an electrical meter here, and then it went to a distribution panel somewhere over there. But that's all been redone, and the electrical service now comes in on the other side of the building. We'll go over in here and look at the laundry room, which is a little different. It's got quite a few mechanicals in it. Of course, the laundry. We just got the 2 washers, 2 dryers, and we're in the process of configuring a space to do laundry in here. But first thing that came in the house was the electrical. So 400 amps at 3-phase. What we didn't plan on initially was doing the grease trap for the kitchen in the floor and the mop sink mounted on the floor. But we were able to get that done, and it's a little clumsy, but it works. The air handling for the 1870s part of the building, which is a little bit smaller, happens right here. So this goes out to the condenser outside, and this provides the air conditioning for the public spaces above us and in the dining room. So because our kitchen is so small, we will have some appliances down here supporting the kitchen, namely a refrigerator and a freezer, upright commercial grade appliances here and here. And then we have plumbed this space for an ice maker. So those are the three appliances that will be supporting the kitchen, which is directly upstairs. Also, we were able to bring the chemicals for the dishwasher down here, and I need to build a shelf to hold the chemicals. Haven't quite gotten there yet. In the old kitchen, the original kitchen, that the ceiling that would be the floor to the second floor and the ceiling of the first floor, was understructured. There was a beam running from this wall to the exterior wall, and it was sagging. So we were able to accommodate a post in the first floor. We had to modify a wall or relocate a wall a little bit to get that beam in there, and then bring that beam all the way down to the basement to a concrete pad. So we didn't correct the sag as much as we just shored up the structure. So it'll last another 100 years, hopefully. One of the scary things that we ran into with this developing this room, and you can see we have a lot of mechanicals in this room. We've got sprinklers and steam, heat. We have the supply plumbing. We have ductwork for exhaust ductwork for the water heater. We have drains. A lot of things going on for the commercial kitchen and the bathrooms, the two restrooms, and then the guest bathroom over here. And as we were doing this, we discovered that we had to have a 1 hour fire rated ceiling. And that would have been impossible to put in, but we got an exemption for the 1 hour fire rated ceiling only below the guest room. So that worked out okay, but we were a little worried about that at the time. This is the switcher, the air conditioner switcher for the 4 rooms on the north half of the building. We have the fire alarm system, so battery backup, the panel that controls or monitors the fire system, and then a radio. And there's a radio network throughout the city for this company that just keeps everything monitored on a daily basis. Nothing special in that room. Probably a storage room originally. We're going to use that for dry goods storage for the kitchen. So this door is interesting because it dates back to the original construction of this part of the house, 1870s. The stairs reflect construction from that period. The one problem that we're having is that during significant rainfalls, we do get water coming into this space. When I undergrounded the drainage for all the downspouts, I made sure that the drain is below this grade at this point, so that when we rebuild these stairs in the next couple of years, we'll be able to tap into that drain this area, and prevent flooding or water infiltration here. Not a big deal, but something we can put off until later. One construction feature we can put off until later. This goes into the first addition. It was put on in the 1870s, and it was used to be a totally open room, and it was the boiler room. Now we've put a 1 hour fire rated wall to separate the boiler room from the rest of the house. And this fire rated wall with fire rated doors comes around here, and the hallway leads to the caretaker's quarters. But let's just take a quick look at the boiler room. This is the original boiler plumbing for that was installed in the 1890s, early 1900s, and connected up to a modern day boiler. So we don't have a big coal burner, which is what it was originally. And Lord knows how they got that boiler down here, because oftentimes boilers were installed in the basement before a house was constructed. But this house was constructed long before the boiler technology was available. So I have no records about that original boiler, but we have here our 5 or 6 year old boiler, which I can't say I'm in love with, but it works well. We put the ductwork for the air conditioning for the dining room in the ceiling. As opposed to busting through the ceiling, we just put it in this metal ductwork, and that contains it reasonably well. Electricity distribution comes from the laundry room into here and then goes elsewhere in the building. Brand new water heater, water softener. We've got a double-barreled water softener here so that we'll always have soft water. And you can see the water distribution. We've got soft, cold hard, cold soft, hot water. And the fourth one of these is the fourth one, and that is the recirculating. So apparently we need to have recirculated hot water in a commercial building. So we actually have the hot water coming back to the hot water being drawn by this recirculation pump, so that anywhere in the house when you turn on the hot water is available almost instantly. Yeah, so this is a strange room. It's a basement room from the original construction of the house. You can see how much they excavated. What is interesting about it is that somebody actually came through and excavated it deeper, which is great because we have more headspace in this room. What's not original about it is that it has a concrete floor and that curb holding back the foundation of the building. In order to get a fire sprinkler system in the property, we needed at least a 4-inch line. And 4 inches would be copper, but it turns out that 6 inches in ductile iron is cheaper. So the house only uses 1.5 inches. So we don't really have that much plumbing need, or comparatively. But if the sprinkler goes off and the whole house needs to be sprinkled, then we need quite a bit of water, hence the new line coming in. And all that is under pressure and in operation, and I don't ever want to see it work. So now we'll head into the caretaker's quarters. And our caretaker has moved in already. Yeah, so the changes that we made in here were, number one, we did lower the floor as far as we could go. We did run into the foundation of the building, and we could not go lower than that without creating a curb coming out from the wall. So instead of creating a curb, we just decided to deal with the lower ceiling. It's unfortunate because, like I said, you can't move the steam plumbing. And however, once you're in here for a while, you don't notice the steam plumbing. We insulated all the walls. We did 3 new windows, basically, a window in that door, and then 2 new windows over here. The bed, of course, is right here, and we have this little nook area, or reading area, with a view out onto the lake that is under the bay window in the reception room. So the caretaker's quarters have, of course, a kitchen, which I still haven't finished, but it's mostly finished. It's very functional, and a bathroom. And the bathroom is somewhat familiar. You'll see the same sort of tile, the glass door that we have elsewhere. The caretaker added her own vanity with her own bowl and faucet. One nice thing about the caretaker's quarters is that it has a separate entrance, and that is required for a residential apartment in a commercial building anyway, that it be totally separate from the commercial building. And we built this door, or we put in a new door for here. There was this door here already, And then when we come outside, we made a fairly nice entrance area for the apartment with the concrete slab and of course the caretaker's own furniture and light fixture. And we were able to hide a lot of the mechanicals on this side of the building, and these will be hidden by a privacy fence or a barrier fence that's required by city code to hide the outdoor mechanicals. The new electric installation, electric meter, we moved that from the other side of the building to here. And we also moved the gas main. And the reason we moved the gas main is that the gas plumbing originally went through the caretaker's quarters. And we don't need gas in that part of the building. We need it where the boiler is. The boiler is right behind me. This is the air intake for the boiler. So we just ended up moving the gas meter, which is something one does on a project this scale. So the retaining walls, I think, worked out really well. And the nice thing about the grade change is that it actually hides the parking from the street. The street is higher up, so we won't see the cars as well from the street. We'll also have shrubbery on top of the retaining wall to hide the parking even more. By code, we can only get 4 parking spaces in here. So over here, 1, 2, and then 3, 4. It's much larger than what it could be because our lot line is pretty much right there, and I wanted to preserve space for this tree to breathe. And already we chopped into that tree's root, but that tree is as old as this house, and I wanted to make sure it had a fighting chance to live. Well, David and I have been working on this project since June of 2016. Back then we were looking at what the state was going to be doing with the property, but by June of 2017 we had won the bid process and we acquired the building. It took us another year to get the financing. We started remodeling in August of 2018, and here we are at the beginning of July 2019. So it's been a 3-year process. We're almost ready to receive guests in the building, and we are so happy that you have been able to see what we've done throughout this whole project. And I hope that you get to enjoy the work we've done on this property in person. Thank you.